Thank you for joining us for the Shalom TV News, Israel in Turmoil. I'm Ron Jacobsohn, sitting in for Mark Golo. As Israel is entering day 9 of Operation Protective Edge, there is still no end in sight. Over 1,050 rockets have been launched at Israel. 1,027 of those rockets hit Israel. Approximately 265 rockets were intercepted by the Iron Dome missile defense system, which is only launched if civilian population is at risk. The IDF has targeted over 1,872 terror targets with both naval and aerial capabilities. It is also important to emphasize that although Israel is technically at war with the Hamas, it has been continuing to supply food, supplies, and gas to the Palestinian population in Gaza. As you can see, there are some numbers that the IDF has already released today. Thursday morning, as the UN-brokered humanitarian ceasefire was in effect, 13 Hamas terrorists tried to infiltrate Israel through a tunnel they have built from Gaza. Thankfully, the IDF soldiers were fast to react and managed to stop them before they could carry out the mission they were sent for by the Hamas. In a very ironic twist of events, some 20 rockets were found Wednesday in a school in Gaza operated by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA. The organization confirmed Thursday that it was actually their school. The weapons were found in a course of a regular inspection of its premises, the organization claimed, adding that the school was vacant. Thursday evening, another Hamas drone was downed by Israel as it entered Israeli airspace from the Mediterranean Sea near the city of Ashkelon. The drone was the second to be intercepted by the IDF since the beginning of Operation Protective Edge. To give us the latest on what is happening in Israel, we're now turning to the Times of Israel's Haviv Retig in Jerusalem. Haviv, what's happening tonight in Jerusalem?
Well, it's pretty quiet in Jerusalem itself, relatively speaking. But, of course, the south of the country is being uttered quite badly. And increasingly hearing voices coming out of the cabinet and really the up, calling for stepping up Israel's response, calling for maybe trying to end this conflict the hard way through a ground incursion into the Gaza Strip that would mean a tremendous, loss of life in Gaza, and also quite a bit of loss of life probably for Israeli forces.
So the ceasefire this morning. The ceasefire this morning that was brokered by the United Nations actually was an opportunity for the Hamas to send a terror group into Israel through a tunnel. That's very unsettling.
The IDF has said that it believes that Hamas's rejection of the ceasefire offer on Tuesday, which was a ceasefire proposed by Egypt according to conditions set by Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority, endorsed by Europe, the United States, and the Arab League, and then acquiesced to by Israel, that ceasefire Hamas rejected. And the reason Hamas rejected that ceasefire, according to Israeli intelligence as of this morning, was because the operation that you're talking about this morning was intended to kidnap Israelis, to abduct them and take them back into Gaza, and Hamas was hoping to negotiate a ceasefire with hostages.
So they really think that Israel has not learned any lessons. They really don't think that Israel has learned any lessons from their past behavior.
Israel or Hamas?
Israel. I mean, they are using the same tactics as they always have.
Well, it's really military tactical lessons, sure. I mean, Hamas has failed in every attempt to do everything. I mean, the rockets they're better rockets, they're stronger rockets, they certainly fly farther. Hamas has developed the ability to build some of the medium-range rockets indigenously. It doesn't have to smuggle them, through Sudan and the Sinai anymore. But Iron Dome is so much better than any missile defense system in the world, but certainly anything that Israel has had in the past, that those rockets don't matter. They failed in commando raids on the beach. They failed with this is the second major tunnel assault tunnel infiltration into Israel that failed. There was a big tunnel attempt in Kerem Shalom on the first day of fighting on July 8th. So Hamas has failed militarily. Has Israel learned, sort of the deeper lessons of how to deal with the politics of this sort of fight? That's a much more complicated and interesting question. But in terms of the military, there's no question Hamas is losing on every front, even when it has had years to prepare and it spent all of Gaza's economy essentially on these preparations.
Now, tell me what you sense on the street, your friends, your peers. How are they holding up? I mean, it seems like nothing has changed from the first day. It's only getting worse.
I think that most Israelis, certainly the Israelis I talk to, are feeling all the different feelings at once. They are very resilient. They understand who the bad guy is. They understand that Hamas is not only bad for Israel, it is even much, much more so terrible for Gaza and for Palestinians. In any war initiated by Hamas, you're still better off being the target of Hamas than Hamas's ostensible, nation that Hamas is allegedly defending. So Israelis do understand that, and they have the patience and the resilience to see this through to the end.
And
at the same time, the very same Israelis who say, no, I can stick this out, I'm not scared, don't worry about it, are also getting frustrated with the sense that Israel has the military power to stop this, but the Israeli government isn't using that power. Now, there's a very good argument, for not going. Please.
All right. Thank you, Haviv, for your amazing insights. As always, have a very safe night in Jerusalem, and we'll talk to you very soon again.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. For over 2 decades, the Israeli film and television industry has been trying to get Hollywood productions to come shoot in Israel. The studios were very hesitant, but somehow this year something changed in the attitude, and both NBC Universal and Fox Studios greenlighted productions of television shows in Israel. Fox is shooting Tyrant for the FX network, and NBC Universal is shooting Dig for USA Network in Israel. Those productions have now been halted by the order of the IDF and are moving to Turkey. To find out what that means for the near future of Hollywood productions in Israel, I'm now joined by the Israel correspondent of Retig, Debra Kamin, in Tel Aviv. Hi, Debra.
Hey, Ron. How you doing?
Very good. So tell me, what is going on with those productions?
Well, I can tell you this. Tyrant has definitely moved to Istanbul. They were filming here in Tel Aviv every episode except their pilot, which they filmed in Morocco. They've been living in Tel Aviv for the past few months, and locals got used to seeing them around town. Justin Kirk was a big fan of a couple of restaurants on Dizengoff, and they really kind of made a home here. They were very active on social media. But when the fighting broke out about a week and a half ago, it really shook up the cast, and I'm sure the crew was also very concerned about safety and insurance. And they decided earlier this week to pack up and move production to Istanbul for the final 2 episodes of the season.
Yeah, it was also interesting because, as you said, the pilot was shot in Morocco, but somehow Israel convinced them to move to shoot in Israel, and now this has happened.
Yes.
So
it's really tragic for everyone involved on the Israeli side, because having such a big budget production here and also starring some major Israeli actors, both Arab and Jewish, it was a huge deal for Israel to finally not just be producing television formats, but actually be attracting productions to Israel as a filming location. It was a first, it was exciting, it was major, and this conflict has really been devastating for everyone involved because of what happened.
And income-wise, I mean, it was a lot of local people that were hired by those productions to work on them, right?
Absolutely. All the extras, all the production crew, the local crew on the ground, even down to the people working the craft services cart and feeding the crews. And this is all local economy that's taken a major hit because of this. Because local Israeli productions can't come close in budget to what a big Hollywood production like Tyrant can.
And of course, Tyrant had to continue production because it is already airing here in the U.S. on FX weekly. So,
yes.
What's happening with Dig?
Yes, exactly. With Dig, as far as I know, Dig was on a scheduled hiatus already. They've already filmed their pilot in Jerusalem. They have not yet moved into filming the rest of the episodes. They're supposed to air in a few months. on USA. So what they've done is they've extended the hiatus by an extra week, and I think they're really waiting it out. The thing with Dig is it's so integral to the city of Jerusalem that I just don't even know how they would create that show if they had to film it in a different location. It would be nearly impossible. So they're really in a bind. They have to make sure that it's safe for everyone involved to film, and they have to make sure that it's comfortable. But it's like Jerusalem as a cast member in the show. Without Jerusalem as a location, they're going to have a serious issue making the quality of show that they really wanted to make.
And what are you hearing back from Hollywood? I mean, are they understanding the situation? Are they empathic to it? Or are they like, this is too dangerous for us and we'll start looking for other locations in the Middle East to shoot in?
I think we have to wait and see. I think Tyrant and Dig are both taking it on a case-by-case basis. Nobody wanted to leave Israel. Dig has not made any official decision that they're going to. I think they really understand it's a very complicated situation. It's not one-sided. Even the cast has been tweeting beautiful things about how they feel terrible being caught in the middle of a conflict, and it's heartbreaking for both sides. But with Hollywood, at the end of the day, it's all about money. It's about insurance, and it's about where it's safe for your very valuable cast and crew and very expensive sets to be. And they have to make a decision. Is it safe for us? Is it a good investment to be in this location? And unfortunately, we had an air raid siren here in Tel Aviv 2 minutes ago, right before you called. Right now, it's not a safe, comfortable place to be filming, which is just unfortunate for everybody, including me.
All right. Thank you very much, Debra. This was Debra Kamin, the Israel correspondent for Variety. In the past 24 hours, 430 Jews from France have arrived to Israel amid the ongoing anti-Semitic tensions Jews have been suffering in the country. Israel has welcomed the new immigrants with a celebrity-style ceremonies, and to give us the detail on what is going on there, we're joined now by Shay Felber, the Deputy General Manager of the Jewish Agency for Israel, who is amongst others also responsible for the agency's activity in Europe. Hi, Shay.
Shalom, shalom.
How are you? Tell us about all the events that the new Olim Chadashim, the new immigrants, have experienced in Israel in the last 24 hours.
Well, they've experienced everything of being Israelis already. They went through all of the Israeli bureaucracy when they landed, and we tried to do it as much as we can and easier on them. So when they landed last night, we have organized for them a very big reception in the airport, and while they were there, we arranged all of the logistics needed for them to get their identity cards and the remaining needs. Following that, we have took them to a hotel in Yerushalayim, and in that hotel, they got all of the services and information needed from Olim, from national security, from health insurance, from a media company. And we ended up in a very, very emotional ceremony, which we gathered the 400 Olim in a venue where we brought the chairman of the Jewish Agency, Nathan Sharansky, Minister of Aliyah and Klita, Sofa Lanzer, the Chief Rabbi of Israel, a Keren Hayesod representative, and member of the Israeli Knesset, and we really hugged them. We thanked them for their coming to Israel, although those are difficult times. And they felt very welcome. But not only that, we also arranged for them a much easier process on their arrival.
Yeah, I almost, like I said in my intro, you almost gave them a celebrity-style welcome to Israel. Day-to-day life in Israel doesn't work like that.
Yeah, first of all, we understand when a big group of Olim are coming together, there's something that the Olim find it much easier in the process. And when they're coming in big groups, it's easier for us to give them all of the facilities needed in one location. So, when we taking what's happening now in Israel, having 400 Olim coming to Israel at once, together, without any cancellation, I think they really deserve a very big round of applause because they are coming, although what's happening, and they feel very safe that they are coming. So I think they deserve a big, warm welcome.
And we're seeing these days growing numbers of Jewish immigrants from France, right, amid of all the anti-Semitism against Jews there. Tell us about that.
Well, for the last almost year, we see the number going and increasing all the time, comparing to 2012, where we had approximately 2,000 Olim. 2013, we finished with more than 3,200. And already now, by July, we're more towards the area of 3,000 again. We think and we understand that there are a couple of push factors towards the Olim from France. Obviously, one of them is the anti-Semitism and the feeling of insecurity that you feel in France. The secondly is the economical crisis that is going through Europe, and especially and mainly in France. The third factor from what we see is that eventually it's a very Zionist Jewish community. All of the Olim have friends and families in Israel. So when they're thinking about leaving France, Israel is the first option that they are thinking about. It's very natural for them thinking about Israel because they are very so connected to Israel. We feel that they feel that this is the first priority for them to come. We are putting also a lot of effort together with the Ministry of Aliyah and Klika in France in giving much more better services for the Olim, consultation services. So, when people are thinking about Aliyah and are considering it, we are helping them to make the right decision because of the level of services we are giving them.
And is France today the top country that we see of new immigrants to Israel? Which country has the most immigrants coming to Israel in the last few years?
Well, we still have the major amount of Olim is still from the former Soviet Union. But if you're looking about where in percentage the number of Olim has grown in the biggest, then definitely France is in the first place, more than 200% comparing to last year. So definitely France is rising up in a very, very significant way.
Now, before I let you go, I want to ask you guys are also dealing with the kids of Israel that are now under attack in the south of Israel. Tell us a bit about the activities that you've been organizing for them to make their life a little easier.
Yeah, so in the last 3 days, we took more than 15,000 kids for a day of respite from their homes. What we are doing is together with the municipality and through a very big and generous contribution we received from JFNA, we are organizing the kids for a day where we take them out for the center of Israel for a fun activity days so they can have some quiet time from the sirens, they can enjoy freely, and not only that it's helping the kids to deal with the stress and being near to the bomb shelters all the time, it's actually also helping the families, because you can imagine yourself a family with 2-3 kids for almost 10 days sitting in the bomb shelters in a closed environment. So we're actually offering the family to get some time off from all the stress that they are feeling together. We will continue this effort, and we hope to get to more than 3,000 kids that will receive this service, which we're also doing is because the government is requesting us and the Federations of North America to help them in this important mission.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Shay. This was Shay Felber, the Deputy General Manager of the Jewish Agency for Israel, talking to us from Jerusalem. And that brings another special edition of the Shalom TV News to an end. Mark Golub will be back at this desk tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern with a special edition of Israel in Turmoil. Thank you for watching. I'm Ron Jacobsohn, sitting in for Mark Golub.